to Sistah Speak Snowpiercer, where we discuss the TNT original show Snowpiercer from a Sistah's point of view. I'm Sistah A.
I'm Will from Seatown.
I'm Zombie Scotty.
And I am Sistah K, and welcome to episode number 9. Let's get started.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, guys.
Welcome. Sistah Speak Nation. We have a treat. We have Will and Zombie Scotty joining us for this episode. Woohoo! Thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, it's great to have you.
And we're going to have a creature double feature. No creature, but a double feature with episodes 9 and 10, the 2-part finale of Snowpiercer. But before we get started, we're going to talk about what we are sipping, lipping for us, and swagging on if you have any swag. And I can go ahead and start us off. Right now, I am sipping in my beautiful prickly pear colored Yeti mug. Zombie Sky and Will, y'all need one of these.
We do.
Fantastic.
And I love
It's like a beer
Men in
sign.
Blazer style advertising.
There you go.
Yes.
Yep.
And it is, I have some sangria juice for all y'all juice lovers out there.
I'm
Have
dying
you tried
to try
that yet?
Not yet.
I need to ship you some because you can't,
Yeah.
you know, I don't sell it up there.
No.
It's delicious,
Mm.
but don't drink too much because, you know.
Always good advice.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna go there, but you know what I'm talking
Not
about.
always.
And then and then for my swag, I really forgot to do any swag, except I do have my permanent swag. And then for my lippy, I have a NYX. This is extra creamy lipstick in the color Fusion. For all
Ooh.
y'all out there.
Oh,
It's really
nice.
electric
Very
pink.
nice.
And I paired this with, Sistah J's not on this, but I paired it with my glimmer stick called Fiery Fuchsia. There's no T in it, so I can't do my T.
Okay. Nice
lip
one.
liner. And
Fiery Fuchsia and Fusion. That's
yes, these are like
That's a
my
mouthful.
favorite-ish colors. My
awesome.
pinks.
They work well together.
Thank you. All right. And Sistah A.
I could go next. I am enjoying a nice cold ice waters in my giant knockoff of a Yeti called a Camus.
Mm.
I don't have the Camus sign.
That's okay. That's Sistah LM's job. I also have in my Sistah Speak tiny mug
Oh, I do
Wow.
Nice
have that.
cup of tea,
Ooh, I'm slow.
some chai tea for this evening. I'm wearing in honor of Sistah LM. Oh, Yeti, nice one. My
Awesome.
Sistah Speak Sistah's bracelet. I also have my Sistah A rose gold. Thank you, Sistah K. And this is from Sistah J, so I'm representing everybody tonight.
Mm.
And then I also have on my prototype
Oh, yes. it's
sweatshirt,
beautiful.
with my Sistah Speaks Sistah A on.
Very nice.
Thank you, me. I got that.
You got that.
And
for
on
yourself.
my lips tonight, I am using the Wet and Wild in this nice dark plummy
Ooh.
color
Nice.
called Violet. Very nice.
Ooh,
Very nice.
And that's it for
very
me.
nice. Looks good.
Mm.
It's like the raisin.
Who's
The
up
other one.
next?
Yes, who
The
is up next
unlimited
with your
raisin.
beverage?
What are you guys
My
doing?
beverage is a homemade
Ooh.
sweet lime soda with
Ooh.
raspberry. I have it in an imperial pint. Maybe later I'll have something else in the imperial pint glass.
I see.
I don't have any swag tonight other than myself, and my lips are my own and unadorned.
Like
Okay,
God
so-
made you.
Yes.
That was well
There
done.
you go.
Tell us again what's in it on your cup? Your
So
homemade.
And how do you
seltzer?
make it at
Yeah,
home?
how do you
So-
make it?
So we get limes delivered. There's a service out here that goes to farms. I'm not sure. I think the delivery is pretty local. It's Pacific Coast Harvest. So once a week I sort of pick stuff and I always get 6 or 7 limes because I make a lot of sweet lime sodas. It actually doesn't have simple syrup. I use stevia. And
Okay.
So you just squeeze it, put in the stevia. We've got a soda stream, and quickly mix it up.
Excellent.
A little bit of ice and a little bit of organic raspberries that I get at the store
Wow, that sounds
frozen. So it adds a little bit of
good.
extra chill, and it's pretty good.
Okay.
It's a
That does
little
sound good.
early on the West Coast to,
Yeah.
to start on the cider, but I was
That's
going
true.
between a Dragon's Head and some Magner's Irish cider.
Ooh,
Ooh.
nice.
It's a little later.
choices.
Yeah.
It's almost
But,
5-ish, sort of.
It's almost getting closer.
Almost.
Yeah.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, I like that.
It's pretty good.
Okay.
Nice. And
Well,
Zombie Scotty.
my beverage cannot compete with Will's. It's just straight up Diet Coke.
Oh, okay.
For
That's
now.
fine.
You're chilling too.
Yeah,
yeah, chilling. I had my first shot today, so
Oh, that's right.
keeping
Yeah.
my system.
Don't mess.
balanced.
Clean.
Mhm.
I do have swag. I showed this last time. My world famous Sistah Speak coffee cups.
All right.
Nice
Very much.
one.
Nice.
Then, of course, I'm wearing my Sir Zombie Scotty,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Of the Sisters Guard, the
Lord
shield.
Commander of the Sisters Guard.
The
It's
name
very
on
nice.
the back.
There you go.
Exactly. Very
Mhm.
cool to be here, and very much looking forward to talking about this finale. So, thanks.
Ditto.
Yes, yes. Now, how
Yeah.
did y'all feel about? Thank you all for sharing your drinks. But how did y'all feel about this double finale that they mashed into 1 week? I was like, what? What's going on?
So I'm just going to say the use of the word mashed is good because there's a lot of relationships and content that they could have used over the series and replaced a lot of the other stuff I would just call filler
Mhm.
that made me feel in the middle of the series like that's nice.
Okay.
And then I finally get the real story the
Move
last
on. Yes. move on.
exactly. So I loved it. I just wish they had delivered that level of impact the whole season.
Okay. Gotcha. How
And
about you, Will?
I thought they definitely came in hard and fast at the end. And, to a degree, I agree with you, Zombie Scotty. They really finished strong on this, and it's like they jammed in a lot at the end. And you've been wondering since the Melanie episode, how's that going to fit in? So they finally sort of tied it all here.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to really see some of the characters fully come out. And first, and some characters made them a lot more interesting, and some characters I got less interested in.
Yeah.
Ooh. Do tell. Who?
Well, I was never interested in Zara, so I don't know what.
Oh.
She pretty much zoned out. I thought she was pretty annoying.
Yeah, she's been
Annoying.
Mhm.
She was a real drain on Leighton's character. The writing of him and her together was a real drain on the intensity of his character.
And to me, it didn't fit.
No.
It's like I'm still confused by it
Right.
because,
Well, I think they're confused. I mean, you're in Snowpiercer time.
but
Yeah.
it's confusing. True. But I mean, when she turned Josie in back in season 1
Mm-hmm.
and Josie died, he was done
Mhm.
with her.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, because she's pregnant, they're together, but are they
Mhm.
together or not together? That's the part I'm confused about.
With
Because they're not
absolutely
clear.
no tension. No tension. He never
Right.
once brought Josie up. He didn't do any of that. And it's like, wait a minute, this is not the guy we were introduced to in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt they compromised his character, to be honest, quite a bit all season. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Come
Yeah.
on.
But he's out of his wheelhouse.
Well, that's the way they're
And one
both.
of the things that happened is he got into it sort of when they made him detective again. So it sort of touches. So he's got his life before, he's got his life on Snowpiercer, and that sort of brought the two of them together. And when he went in, I don't know what you want to call it, the box with Zara, and they had their moment
Yeah.
as they did touch. So he's all sort of jumbled up on that. And I don't, I can't presume to know the psychological impacts that being on the
Mhm.
Snowpiercer would have. But, it's not always realistic. And I think that's one of the weaker sort of relationships.
Definitely.
And I think,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, I found her kind of annoying and a bit petulant.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's what they're going for. I don't know. But also, like I said, Leighton's a bit out of his wheelhouse on this, and he seemed to get, a bit of that sort of old cop swag and revolutionary back on it in these episodes. That's would have been missing.
Yeah.
But maybe that's where he
Maybe that's on
excels.
purpose. Maybe that's on purpose so that we can see he's not really, he's a leader, but he's not
a peacetime leader. He's
not,
a wartime leader.
He's a leader, and somebody that people gravitate to. But when he has to be responsible for so many things and so many people, I think he kind of flounders a bit, or at least that's how they showed him.
Well, I'm going to say that's how they showed him, because the guy we met last year, if he found himself in charge, he would have made friends with Ruth instantly. Instantly. He would
Knowing
have known
that she ran the whole
Ruth
joint.
is the power. Ruth is the power. And they had him rolling his eyes at her and stuff. And it's like,
that part I could kind of understand, though, because of how she treated them back when everything was still Wilford's way.
Well, in hospitality's like HR. Everybody's going to roll their eyes at hospitality. Like, you're hospitality. I was a cop, and then I led the revolution, and you're hospitality.
Yeah.
And he was in there, freezing people's arms and hitting them with
there's no trust. There was no trust at the beginning.
I can see him being kind of like, give me a break. But, like Melanie said, keep her on side, because, Melanie was able to do stuff because Ruth was there to, make sure it all worked at the lower levels.
That's
so
true.
Leighton,
do I see?
In a couple episodes ago, Leighton goes on the radio and makes a ridiculous speech that just pisses people off. And he's sitting in the room, and Ruth says to him, Zara's in there, and Ruth says, very nice. I'm not sure everybody's going to experience that the way you intended. And he says, well, the tailies need to be backed up. And she goes, okay. And Zara says, we had to do something. And the next thing you know, he's crying in her arms. That's just not the guy I knew last night.
You're right.
Yeah.
Would have had a bit better feel for people. I'm not saying he would have. I'm just saying, in my experience, I thought they did things to his character that I don't think they needed to do to make the points they wanted to make in the last episode. Yeah. I'll just stop there.
Okay.
And Sistah A, that question about the mashup of the two.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like there was some definite filler on the 9th episode of this season. It seemed to go a little bit left with this whole like carnival car 326 or 272 or whatever the hell it was. 272. And I was like, where is this going?
And we didn't get to see the carnival.
No.
Or anybody enjoying it, really. I guess it was just all for show.
Sort of like a dry run.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a little bit not very interesting at that point. But then it definitely picked up. And the 10th episode was quite entertaining. So, yeah.
I thought that was interesting because it really built on Wilford's character.
True.
And his sort of, like, you can see that going from when he was probably a poor little kid, because he's got Willie's World, which is even funnier for the Brits. Just the kid park and the adult park. But, you really saw, like, his sort of depths and how sort of much he needs reassurance on things and how he always thinks that he can play people off. I thought it was sort of interesting from sort of that perspective, but in the old sort of Punch and Judy puppet thing.
Yeah.
And mostly just playing it to see how he's going to affect people and how they were or weren't going to suck up to him afterwards. But the bit itself wasn't that interesting, but those sort of aspects of it I thought were interesting.
Really speaking to Alex quite a bit through that puppet show and everything. So pushing her character forward, which was good.
Yeah, I think they're fortunate that Sean Bean is a better actor than the lines they gave him.
Oh, yeah.
Because he really gave credibility to. It's kind of funny because the beginning of the season when I was watching it, I'm saying, oh, he's so sociopathic. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope he's not a mustache twirling cardboard two-dimensional. And that, he's at the carnival with a little fake mustache. I mean,
yes.
He did.
I was gonna say there are so many times he could have been taken out.
Yes.
Oh yes.
There's so many times he could have been taken out,
Yeah.
and I was just kind of stunned. Why is Ben letting him drive the train? Why isn't Ben just grabbing? I mean, right. I'm not saying he should have, would have, whatever. I was a little surprised. Sean Bean's a better actor, I think, than the lines they've been giving him, and his performance has been amazing.
Do you think? So you just mentioned something that you mentioned in the first, because you were our guest host on the first episode, where you had mentioned you hope that they made Wilford a more nuanced character and not just all villain. Yeah. Do you think they've accomplished that?
Well, they didn't make him. They made him increasingly small, right? They made him increasingly, narcissistic, self-centered, and I get that point. The thing is, these days we're getting such good villains. You know, we're getting Killmonger in Black Panther, right? We're getting these villains, or what people call villains. We can identify with them. Right. And I don't know anybody that can identify with Wilford, but they can look at him and say, I know what that is, but they don't, I get what, you know, I don't care.
You can see where he could have turned, like a split second could have turned him one way or another.
I just don't know that they had to write him so over the top to make the same point. Because look, Melanie stole his train. She left him out in the cold to die. That's enough to piss anybody off, right? You don't have to be a sociopath to do all that. And so I thought they almost pushed his character too far. I would have preferred like a villain, someone I could identify with. But they wanted to make their point.
But she ditched him because he was a sociopath when he executes the geneticists and their families. Mm-hmm. He has them all machine gunned, and she's like, all right, Ben, we're out of here.
No,
off. So, I mean, I think he already was a sociopath. I mean, I thought it was interesting because he's a billionaire that wants to create his own world because it's this self-reinforcing things for him and his ego. Everybody's just along for the ride with him and his ego. I mean, I think that's part of the point, and they sort of reinforce it in a way, sort of throughout the various things when he has the conversations, when he drinks, when he asks, and it's like he asks people questions that he knows the answer to. He just wants to see how they're going to answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I think, and Sean Bean is great for that. I mean, it reminds me some of the. From season 1 and season 2 of Westworld, it's like some of the great sort of, acting and just chewing of the scenery. Mm-hmm. I mean, so he's perfect for that kind of role. Also, he's a billionaire that has taken the whole train set thing, as Leighton says, you're a white dictator with a train.
Yeah.
But here we also get to see some of the insecurity of youth because he's tapping into, I'm going to the world's going to all die and you're going to create this carnival train?
Yeah.
With your name?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Welcome to Willie's world.
I would have loved to have seen more, like a couple of moments of vulnerability from him. Yes, you could be a sociopath, but then I would have liked to seen something that kind of makes you think, oh, well, there's a reason for this.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's a reason why he is the way he is, or besides just being a rich jerk, selfish asshole, that would have made him a little bit more interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Well, he was easy to write off. That's the thing is there was another moment to me where I said, maybe I should consider his view.
Right.
No, I'm not going to consider his view at all. And all I'll say is, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
When you're writing villains, that's the easiest thing to do. I mean, I empathize with Thanos more than Wilford. Thanos at least had an idea.
He had a reason why he was trying to.
Not a good one, but it was an idea. It created a space, and there was enough complexity coming from the other side, from the other characters, in terms of, so he just kind of became this sort of black hole that just sucked in everybody's gravity, and we got to look at how they dealt with it, and that's fine. It really paid off in the last 2 episodes. I and they're lucky Sean Bean did the gig, because he
Definitely.
was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Yeah, not many people could have pulled off that and made it enjoyable. I mean, he's a great villain. I mean, that's what he was known for, is playing villains and dying before Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I was glad he didn't die at the end of the season. It's like, give the guy at least 2 seasons.
Let's have another season.
Yeah, but I mean, I felt I got to know more about it. I didn't get to know what the events were, but like they talked about the Russian lady and her family,
right?
And his ability to bring people, the guy that ran his buildings in New York.
Yes,
you find these weird little things. You don't know how it all fits in, and the fact that, you know, he's still got the same woman he had back then, that now he's bringing her back, and he's got this need to be, you know, fill the, you know, adulation of the masses on his train, and the fact that he's denied that, he's always going. So for me, I find that part interesting, but you're not going to sort of relate to a billionaire like that.
Yeah.
But here's my pet theory. Maybe it's a little early for it. Is that there's going to be, he's not the only billionaire with a plan. I think someone else is going to pop up in season 3.
Oh.
And I think that's how Melanie may come back on the show.
That would be interesting.
Oh, on or off the train? Off the train?
Well, it could be coming a different way, not their train, at least initially, because they're able to pick up. So someone else could pick it up, especially if there's areas that are starting to warm up.
Yeah.
Maybe they picked her up, because it's the thing. She disappears. You know, it could be contractual, but there's a sort of a storyline that could emerge as, why would Wilfred be the only one? There's always someone with more money than you, or more power, or more something that you don't have. So that could be interesting as sort of a counterpoint. Because I was thinking, like, so where could you go with this? What are sort of obviously there's a lot of stuff. Who knows if Jennifer Connelly wants to do more, but there's that possibility. And then he's not the only one. Because Ruth talks about, you know, at the beginning, about the change now that he's in charge, and the fear in the order, because they offer hope and he offers fear and order. But now with the world changing, that's not the only game. Like, he doesn't have the only gig in town if people believe that parts of the world are warming up. So that is taking away some of his power and appeal.
Which I think is why he's so not wanting Melanie to survive. He wants to leave her. He doesn't want, she didn't want those weather balloons to go up. He didn't want anyone to know about if there was a warming trend, because he wants to keep his little domain, his little dictatorship of the train going. And he doesn't think he could do that outside if the planet warms up and they find space somewhere else. But I thought there was going to be a moment in the episode, I think it was 7, with Audrey, when Audrey first came back over, because they showed him being really vulnerable with her at first, and she of course has been talking about how scary, and how he made the one where can't remember the name of the episode where we noticed that she had the long scar on her arm, and she was telling Zara about, look, he likes to take over, it's his way or the highway, but he gets into your mind. And I was thinking, that episode, to me, when they first met back up, I kept thinking, okay, he's going to do some shit. He didn't. She was the one in control in that specific episode, because he needed her or wanted her so badly.
Yeah.
And that would have, to me, been a really good opportunity to kind of see more of him being that way with her throughout, but then they kind of ended it in that episode, and they just kept going. And then the next episode, all of a sudden, she's like all in. She's like back into it. She's brainwashed, or whatever it is that it is. And it would have been really cool to see her still try to hold some sway over him, and him kind of falling for it, but then not. I don't know. I would have really enjoyed that a little bit more than just her automatically being back into it. I was surprised about the Kevin reveal that he was still alive.
Yeah, that was huge. I didn't realize they had him kept away somewhere.
I know.
And then she did her thing on him, and
she did her
he's
thing.
back in the ranks.
Which was really interesting. And now she's a lush. Now she's she's on drugs. I mean, what's going on with Audrey? I don't understand. She's like way over the top.
That part was not particularly well written. I kept wondering, like, is this just an act? And it just sort of seemed they never really revealed it. And then she seemed totally in. I kept wondering, like, is she gonna, stab him? Is she getting the information out? That part wasn't not clear or particularly well done. Or most of it, even if you don't agree with the changes, you're able to follow it.
Yeah.
That one just sort of seemed to collapse. Maybe there's some great outtakes, but we didn't see any of it.
Yeah, she was. I'm not sure what they were trying to do with her character, because they did show us her in the tub with him, or her in the tub and with the blade. And I'll just be honest. I thought those were dangerous scenes. I thought that was a very dangerous theme to deal with in a dramatization. These things are so stylized that it's, they put the disclaimer at the end if you're thinking about committing suicide. At the same time, this is just Scott reacting. This is not telling anybody what they should or shouldn't do. I just felt like, what am I learning about people from this that I need to see all of this? Or is this entertainment? What? And so I had that reaction. Her character wasn't very mysterious at all, the whole series. I mean, it was binary. She's either going to kill him or not. I mean, and then from running the grief car, I thought that was awesome. They turned it into a grief car, and I guess there's some psychological connection I didn't understand between creating a grief car and then ending up with Wilford. I don't know if it's a dependency they're trying to say, that I need to hear your weakness. It helps me deal with mine. And then she goes to Wilford because he, engages, satisfies her weakness or whatever. I don't think I got the mojo out of that they were trying to give me. And I'm not saying it probably is just me, but I didn't feel what they were trying to do.
But wasn't part of it that she had everybody work through their grief that came through the car, but she never worked through hers. And then she went back. And so she was back immersed in that crazy drug world that she was with him, that led her at one point to try to kill herself. And that maybe she just lost. But when she was extracted out on the car, she became a different self, like I was talking about earlier with Leighton. There was sort of the pre-car Leighton, and then, so for her, maybe that's part of it. And she is drawn back into that. Like, if you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, you're always at it. It's just, are you practicing or not? And so it seemed to me that's when it back. I think that we missed some steps along the way because it was difficult to tell. And maybe that was part of it. We just don't know, because what we're seeing of Audrey is very limited.
Yeah.
And maybe she thought she can't do it, or this is not the right time, or she grew to fear him, or just fell back into old ways. I mean, she is wasted in episode 10.
Yeah.
Wasted.
I mean, she is hung over.
Yes.
I mean, that is bad.
Even Wilford, with his doobie doing self all the time, he was like, "Are you gonna do anything today?"
Man, when they had him walking around the train stoned, that was some incredible acting. I'm being serious. His eyes were baggy. His look was this look of someone who's incredibly drunk and stoned. The way he carried his that guy acted good. The hell out of what they gave him to do. Right. I was really impressed with his work.
I as much as I like Snowpiercer, that part to me was disappointing. The whole Wilford thing has turned into a disappointment a little bit, just because it's just the same every single time. It's just mean, more mean. How much meaner can he get?
No. Yeah.
And he's not mean enough, or he's too mean. I mean, people who are trying to keep his train from him, he didn't do anything to. But Kevin, who was just trying to get some fruit, he had him slicing himself. So it's just like it didn't quite match. Like he had been, I get he's trying to make a point and make people scared and break them, but I would think that he would do the same for when he finally got on Snowpiercer.
Yeah, there was the one scene where they did the scene that Will mentioned earlier when he ordered the geneticist to be executed. But some of that backstory, you could see he was not behaving quite sociopathically. He was still in charge, right? And he was acting like a white privileged billionaire. He wasn't being that cruel until that kind of moment happened. And there was I think what they may have been saying is, when everything's working, this guy might look like he's charming. But when shit hits the fan, you find out who he really is. And if that's what they wanted, I think there would have been space in this second season to backstory that a little more, because instead of some of the drama they were trying to create that didn't work for me, that at least that may have made him a little bit deeper and may have drawn some understanding for me. Otherwise, it was just a void.
Yeah.
He's always got, like, look what he did with Icy Bob. Like, that was a slow, deliberate path, and now he's got Josie going on that. And even, like, I thought the scene with him and her, I can't remember what episode it was, where he basically talks her into continuing on. Like that, it's the devil's bargain, but he sort of lures you in. But even when he's being charming and everything's going well, he's still got this whole evil intent thing going on. You know, at least in my view. That it seems to be that's his operating thing. You know, like he's got all those and the scene where, should we go to the scene in the car with Justice?
Yes. Oh.
Justice.
So basically,
who's
so
Justice?
He basically
that's not the dog.
So it's basically he's got all the people that killed the brakeman.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah, so he gets everybody in, and he gets Till, isn't it?
Till.
And she said, I want to hunt these guys down and I want justice. And then he basically brings her in and says,
okay, here you go.
Advise me.
Here's your
and then
justice.
He kills them all. So these are people that worship him, but it's not enough. Like, you've worshiped me, okay, I'm ready to move on. And at that point, he doesn't see the value in having those dedicated followers that would do anything for him.
Which the brakemen were.
So he killed the brakemen, then he killed the people that killed the brakemen. And for whatever reason, he's trying to work through these key people, the key latent people, and maybe he sees that as his mission. He needs to get through that, and that's what he cares about. Everybody else is collateral damage.
Maybe, but it seems strange that would be his mode, because especially when he knows, because he's gotten information from Audrey about how the revolution went down and who is still supporting him. So the brakemen and those guys who killed, and women who killed the brakemen for him, they would have been loyal to him till forever.
Yeah. And we don't know how they're communicating. That's one of the interesting things and we don't know how he got the weather information, is that he's got all these paths, and there's this, and that's one of the things I find interesting about the show. And there's all the secrets of how you can get up and down the train. And like Alex knows that here you can sneak in this way. So everybody's getting this information, like Leighton and them are getting it through Compost. And then he's getting the information from we don't know where. It's the sort of pettiness of somebody daring to challenge him or not to play. And so if you've got seemingly unlimited time, like if there's nothing but ice, then these are the games he wants to play on his, train set.
But then someone who, like Leighton, who's a blatant, or even Till, who's blatantly in his face saying, well, you're crazy. I'm not the one. Even Ben, who he really does not like and hasn't liked from the beginning, which I love because I don't really like Ben either. But I just love it whenever he's like, this is a Ben-free zone. I'm like, yes.
But you must have loved the ass whooping then. Go Sykes!
I kind of was, not to be mean, but I kind of was. But anyway, I wanted him to win, of course. But then I was like, get some licks in, Sykes. Thank you. Because Ben gets on my nerves. He lies too much for no reason, and I'm like, I just don't understand why he had to lie to Melanie back in the last season. But anyway, he's confronted with the Wilford has these people that are blatantly in his face, like, I don't agree with you. You're not going to be a good leader, and he doesn't do anything to him. But the people who are worshiping him, it's like, yeah, you worship me, but it's like he's got this thing where he really wants to break the ones that are so adamantly against him, but the ones that are on his side, he's like, they're disposable. Like you saw how in the carnival scene, Lila Jr. was clapping, and he's like, what do you think, Alex? Or what do y'all think? And then he knows they're not happy with it. Mm-hmm. He doesn't care about the people who are happy with it. He wants to basically F with the ones who don't.
Yeah, no, they're the tools that make him work, right?
Yeah,
it's the challenge.
He sees them as tools, all of them. And I'm sorry, even Audrey. There's never one moment in the show where he truly considers her perspective, right? It's always about what he wants from her, even if he's just gazing at her while she dances or whatever. But he likes the fight of will, likes the battle of will. And that I'll give him that. I'm sorry, but you get Layton and Snowpiercer. You get Wilford in Snowpiercer on one of these bottom of the train cars. You don't put a bag on his head so that no one knows who he is. You don't knock him out and tie him up. I mean, I'm just like, oh,
really?
I couldn't figure out why the writers. Oh, one of my fellow podcast friends said, like, everybody forgot how violence worked. I mean, take him out.
They needed it to happen that way. So they just threw it in. They needed it to get to this point, and they didn't care about what it looked like to get there.
Yeah. Layton, come on, he's a detective. He would have had all these things figured out. That's why he was successful in season 1. Because he was smart, picked up on details and said, this is how we're going to manipulate it, right?
It's also easier to take down a system than it is to run it.
True.
Well, okay, so
once he's got to run it, once he's got to do all these things, and this is an area he doesn't know anything about.
Yeah.
Now, you could, and I'm not saying it's the only way.
He knows people, man, right? I mean, that's the thing. At the end of the episode, it becomes clear that if everybody had just said to Layton on occasion, dude, thanks for doing this. What do you need us to do? How can we help? No one said that. And it's like, Layton, I mean, I just don't believe that the character they showed me in season 1 would not have known people better and would have not have known how to get the best out of them to get this thing to move. And he does it the last one where he makes a plan of what they got to do, I guess. I just didn't believe the guy I saw for season 1 was the guy that I was seeing in season 2 because he's a former detective. He knows people.
But there's all kinds of people he can't motivate. Yeah. There's a lot of people that are built like, what's going to advantage them is what Wilford offers. And a lot of them bought into that. And they thought the whole time Melanie was running it for all those years is Wilford was actually the one running it. And he took on this deification, and that's his sort of realm. And, like when they show the scene with all the people lighting the candles on the train. So, I certainly agree they could have written him better. I'm not arguing that point with you, but there is sort of a pull of sort of Wilford and that kind of thing. So he couldn't have done all of that. And, maybe he could have put a bag on his head and then maybe he wouldn't have done it. But,
Now, this is another thing that kind of confused me. What did y'all think about that whole little episode we had with Roche and his family? We finally got to see who his wife and daughter were. And we found out he had another child that got killed during one of those riots.
Yeah, two.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, they're drawered. They're in the drawers.
That was
like, I was like, what?
I'm gonna say that was awesome. And I don't mean it was awesome as like I was glad to see it. It was good writing. Because what Roche paid for in that moment was his neutrality. And it was Roche's wife who was pro Wilford, right?
Yeah.
And she's the first one in the drawer. I mean, the writers were kind of writing at us at that moment. That episode with the turn and the lights, they were trying to say something about some things I won't talk about, but they were trying to say something about obedience and fear and neutrality. And it was, I didn't see it coming. I thought it was awesome.
I didn't either.
I thought it was really, I agree. I thought it was really well done, and it was a great sort of pivot on it. And, you know, and it also makes it easy to bring Roche back. But it's like he dared to not, like he tried to, like you say, take the neutral path. And, you know, that's not what Wilford wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And at times it's not what Leighton wanted. Leighton would have preferred a more sort of unconditional support, but he wasn't giving that.
No. See, Leighton would have known that Ruth was the power source of the train. And he would have recruited her in episode 1 and say, Ruth, help me do this.
Yeah.
Help me do this, right? And they wouldn't have liked each other, and they wouldn't have trusted each other.
For a while.
I would have wrote that trust a little differently. That's all. Because, yeah.
But sometimes people don't get out of their own way. Like, you know, Ruth was the face a lot of times of coming down and putting the orders on the tailies. And there's a lot of that it's tough to get over for him just to say, oh, yeah, I get it. You were just, you know, you're actually the power source. I got to be nice to you. He, you know.
Honey, when he got over
you
quick.
ingrain, you know, you ingrain that. That stuff gets ingrained. You watch your friends that died, you know, they talk about overcoming cannibalism and what it takes to sort of get yourself back.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that was their hate of everybody else.
You know, that reminds me of, what was his name? Stephen Ogg's character.
Oh, yeah.
Westworld. I can't remember his character's name now all of a sudden.
Oh yeah, I don't remember his name in Westworld.
The one that Leighton asked to go kill the janitor clearance.
Yeah.
And he was like, I swore I would never go back there. And you're asking me to go back to that.
You mean Pike?
Pike. Thank you. Pike. Thank you. And that's when we found out that Pike was one of the on the cannibal side in that situation they had at the very beginning, I guess. And he's like, you know, I told myself I would never go back to killing a man outside of battle again.
Right.
Which kind of changes Pike's. I mean, he's already kind of, you know, iffy. But now he's all the way off. Yeah. And that would have been really cool to see more of him and more of him sliding off the deep end.
Yeah. And so what does Leighton do? Hey, man, I know you're vulnerable in this way, but please go kill someone for me.
Yeah.
And what does he say later on? Oh, I think I messed him up. That's just not the way the guy from the first season would have talked.
Yeah.
That conversation when Pike was looking at him and just, he did such a good job on that scene, Stephen Ogg. And he was looking at him and he's like, I can't go back to that. You know why I can't go back to that. I feel like Leighton would have said, you're right. I'm going to find another way. I'm going to.
Or help me find a way. Or,
yeah.
I'll
find somebody else. Yeah.
But
have Leighton be the one.
But wouldn't have Leighton been too obvious, and that was why he was having Ogg's character do it?
I don't disagree. It's just, why does violence work then but not work later? I mean, you know, if you're going to be killing people, kill Wilford, man.
I mean, yes.
Take the problem out. Yep.
I just felt that they sacrificed a lot of things in Leighton's character to create a space for other characters to be centered. And that's fine. That's just how I felt. I'm not saying that's what they did and that's right. But I don't know that you had to thin out Leighton's character to make Ruth grow, right? Ruth was going to grow regardless of Leighton.
Right.
Right. So as you can tell, I had some issues with how they wrote Leighton this season. Yeah, so I'll stop.
No, that's all good. It's all good. Yeah. So, back to Wilford's influence, which I find interesting with the whole storyline of Josie and the doctors who have basically saved her life and saved her from all this pain. Now it looks like she's got like a taste for it. Like she's liking this new body that she has, this new ability that she has to withstand. And she's so different than Icy Bob. It doesn't affect her the same way. What do you think about that? And her, like at that end, when she was asking the doctors, what did you do to me? I should be told. And that one doctor, the lady doctor said, yeah, but you liked it, didn't you? Thought it was cool, right?
I loved all that.
I thought that was...
Go ahead.
And they're great, and they're perfectly cast for this. They're like great oddball scientists.
Yes, they are.
A bit dubious, getting off on the really weird stuff of science. And I also thought, and it may have lost, but her line about I didn't give my consent. It's like you're on Snowpiercer. There, now you're on Alice. There is no consent. Right. There's whatever Wilford wills at that particular moment. And and they made a point of not addressing any of the things she was saying other than to say, we saved you. You liked it, right? Like we know deep down, and she knows that too. She may not like it. Like obviously she's not comfortable with it, but at the end of the day, she's saved and she gets a rush out of it. Whatever it is, she didn't really explain it, but we can see it in the way her character responds.
Yeah, she was like Peter Parker shooting web the first time learning how to swing through the city. I mean, it was a fantastic superhero origin story. Traumatized, she came back, she transformed into something different. They even dressed her up in black leather. I mean, it was an X-Men outfit, right?
It was.
She was super duper.
Just a couple of W's on it though.
Exactly. I thought that was one of my favorite parts, because she's what they're writing Wilford, or they're writing Leighton as if he forgot her, as if he forgot that world and he forgot that life. And it's like, no, he wouldn't forget that life. So why are you writing him that way? So I loved it. And what I really dug about the season was, for me, don't get mad at me, but this was a really cool Kill Bill 2 show, right? Where you had these strong women. Ruth was a trained hospitality person by Wilford. These are people that worked for him who have now kind of grown, developed their own powers up against him. And I think I will say any more about Wilford, but I love the women power. And I love what they did with Melanie's character. I hate to say that I love it, but I love it. She was there just as much as anybody else in our hearts and minds, even though she quote unquote wasn't there. Just brilliant.
I found myself missing her on the show. We had so many episodes without her. Did y'all find yourself missing Jennifer Connelly's character?
Yes. I mean, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it was really interesting of how much power she had, like in that one episode, and how everything that they were doing on Snowpiercer bounced off on what she was doing on her own, in the little ice igloo, at the base, doing a climate model based on these balloons. Yeah. So, I mean, like I say, all the stuff in Snowpiercer is basically bouncing off Melanie, and Wilford's whole driven thing is Melanie took my train and I got to destroy her. I got to destroy her memory. I got to destroy the people that rose up. He's just sort of driven by what he feels aggrieved by. And it's that, like, at the end of the day, they're not bowing down, and, he's just trying to exact his revenge at this point and savor it. It's the whole, Klingon is best, savored.
Yeah. I think they did a really cool thing with her this season, which is kind of the same thing they did with Wolford last season. It's the extremely powerful person who's there but not there. Right.
Mhm.
In other words, Wolford was the person who wasn't there last season, but had a huge impact. And this season it was Melanie who wasn't there, but had a huge impact. And I thought, good for you. That was an achievement, I thought, that we cared so much about someone we didn't see. Right. And then how do we see Melanie? Well, we see balloons go up. We see it in Ben's eyes, right? We see it in Alex's character. And I thought that's like how you make a good creep show, right? You never show the monster. You just show the sound. You give the sounds and the little shadows. And they did really, and then to have her, we can talk spoilers, right? The season's over. We can talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about everything.
For her to, when Alex was reading that document at the end, I thought it was brilliant, right? For her to quote unquote, what she said was, I can walk out into the white, right? And we assume like she's passed, but as Will said, no, season 3, she's going to be picked up by some other train probably. But I thought, I was so certain she was coming back. I was so certain that she wasn't going to be left out of the train. Even when the train went by her episodes ago, I thought for sure.
Well, I thought, so how's she going to get back on the train? What's going to happen?
Exactly.
Like you said, you're sure that she's getting back. So how are they going to pull that bit off?
Yeah.
And we know it's 1,000+ cars. So there's plenty of things that can happen.
And then they let her go. Oh, damn. That was good.
Yeah.
That was good. Yeah.
Yes. Sister J was thinking that was a dream when we saw her go out to catch the train. And you kept wondering, but then we were way back in time.
Yeah.
Moving forward to that point, which is what we said at the very end. And then, that was it. She was gone. So, but I hope Will's right. I hope she does come back.
Yeah. It seems like they have it set up for that.
Yeah.
Especially, like I say, you see all these places where the world's okay.
Right. And, very warm.
Lots of billionaires.
Yeah. No, that's
but
really
is it all warm or is it just warmer than where they're at? It's not like warm.
We're not. I wasn't able to tell. Some of them, like the color schemes, they look like it was warm, but
by the colors,
we don't know. But we don't know. Like, is that -10 instead of minus 95,
97? Yeah,
I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
And obviously they're filming it. So
in production. That was awesome.
Yeah. I keep thinking that when Melanie, so I was surprised that she wasn't there too. And I kept thinking, okay, maybe what if she followed that warm fissure somewhere?
Yeah.
I would have done that before I would have walked out into the snow.
Well, it looked like there was a tunnel or something.
Yeah.
Like you could go further, but maybe it's just my eyes or something. But
also, she also said that she ate the rats to extinction.
Yeah, she ate up all the rats.
Right.
But maybe if she went further on, she'd find something else. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably would be hungry enough to go and try to find my way, dig out that.
Yeah, you'd have to at some
other
point.
station or whatever. But I kept thinking earlier in the season, I said, okay, she's going to, somebody else is alive out there. I know that someone else is alive in a bunker, or they figured out how to live
underground.
Something. There's somebody else out there. And what if they come up every once in a while to forage for stuff, and she gets seen and she goes with them? And so there could be no limit to what they could have, where they could have her be.
Yeah.
And who they could have. I kept thinking on when that episode where she was alone, and she kept having the visions of all the people. And I kept thinking, somebody's going to walk up in there and knock her on the head and snatch her or something. That it didn't happen. But I mean, it could.
Yeah.
It really could.
Yeah.
Or she could follow that whatever that crevice thing is that's warm to, I'm sure there's more than just that one.
Definitely.
To wherever.
Yeah.
Well, because it's at the Earth's core, it's going to be, still molten lava.
Yeah.
So I mean,
exactly.
There's going to be all kinds
warmth is there. Yeah.
Geothermal heat. And if she's broadcasting that, someone else can pick it up. If they can pick it up, someone else can pick it up.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I thought they should have spent a little more time with my friend, one of my colleagues calls it the world building. So, Will, you talked about, hey, how this message get from here to here. When we get to the Roche episode, we find out that kids are still in school. Why didn't I know that?
Well, they had the school car.
No, what I'm saying is I didn't know that post-revolution, all these things were still going on.
Oh.
All the writing was about like Teal's interaction with the
that preacher.
Yeah, that's just
that was to me a waste. The whole preacher thing.
Yeah,
the
I knew he was suspicious.
Yeah, the resolution of that was pretty weak.
And so they could have spent more time with just like, why is this the first time we're meeting Roche's family? That was such an interesting story.
Yeah, it was.
And so, I mean,
and it was the first time we've seen anybody in the third class's house, like home.
How they live.
They live. Like they're in this little bitty car. And that Russian lady, that was the first time we'd seen anyone else's like personal car. We've always seen the big dining room and the tail and the engine.
Night car. Yeah.
The night car.
The luxury suite.
Yeah, in the luxury suite. But we've never seen like the normal person where they live.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see more of that.
I would have, I'm going to tell you my favorite moment of the finale, and probably my favorite moment of the season, and that was when I got to find his name here. Hold on. I'm sorry. You guys can go ahead and talk. I'll find it and I'll get back to you.
No, go ahead.
You mean LJ's boyfriend?
Yes.
Osweiler.
Yeah.
When he, Wilford says to him, "Why should I keep you?" And then this young man who we've not really had a very high opinion of says, "Can I?" And then he sings a song. That song was amazing. And what it did was not only in the viewer, I think, but in the characters in that car at that moment, made them all so totally aware of what their current lives reflected, what they had lost, not just in terms of the people, but their own humanity and the way that they were with each other.
Yeah.
I thought, good for you guys. Because that moment just told everything about what they had lost. I was stunned. I'll probably watch that scene again just because I was glad to see that young actor get that moment, right? It was just, for me, it was stunningly well done. And everything had led to that moment where he doesn't even answer Wilford in the plane of, well, you should keep me because he says, is love alive? And I thought, damn, good for you guys. I loved it. Absolutely.
No, I thought that was good. And what was he going to say? It wasn't, because Wilford, if he wanted to, would have torn him apart like he did LJ.
Yeah. There's no right answer, really, with Wilford.
Oh my goodness. That was a good scene too.
Yeah.
That was a good I was like, LJ, you dumbass. She didn't even know she had revealed some shit on that conversation.
He didn't care about it too. He wanted to catch her out, caught her out, had fun with it. He's like, it's basically like, look, I know all this because that's what he does.
Playing with her.
It's off,
Effing with her.
I know what you did.
Yeah, he's not going to watch TV. He's going to play with people.
Yeah, exactly.
And I thought there was a little kink in his character. Not kink. There was a
lot of kink in his character.
Yeah, they opened up something about his character when you suddenly recognize that he hates her. He
LJ?
loves her. Yes.
Yeah.
And he made it clear, you're not safe. Because when he said the thing about her about cutting men's penises off, what I think he was saying is, you broke my law. You don't get to just do whatever violence you want on my train.
I'm the one who does it.
I'm the one that does it. No, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
You don't get to run out as a free agent doing what you want. This is my train. And he made it clear to her, I know what you did and you are not safe. And I think that's what Osweiler kind of really picked up on, because one of his first responses to Wilford was, my intentions toward this woman are good or sound. He was trying to play in that immediate moment of conversation. And he saw how much Wilford hated her. He tried to get her to stop talking, as a matter of fact. LJ, hey, you don't know who you're dealing with.
Yeah,
and she didn't. And she went out caring. Oh yeah.
She's so used to just doing what she wants to do.
Boom.
She's a brat.
So she's done for.
You think so? I don't think so.
I don't think so. He doesn't.
Unless they want to
have to get rid of her.
Use her for something.
Well, so the thing is, here's the thing about the story for me. Sometimes I feel like I'm being written at, and sometimes I feel like I'm watching an interesting story. I mean, sometimes, like for the whole scene with them going around the circle and the lamps and who do you trust, Leighton, I just felt like I was kind of being written at in terms of the political times that we're in. And that's fine. For me, I prefer to just have them write good characters and then, kind of
I love that visual. I thought that was great. And we watch the show and we have this vision of how we think everything's going and who everybody cares about. But that just shows us that there's a bigger train with lots of people. Like, we don't know why that many people are sort of supporting him. Do they think they have to? Like, Raj's wife maybe doesn't think that he's the right guy, but that he's in power. And so they just need to be careful with it. And Roush is holding on to the idea that Leighton's a good guy. I forgot what that's like. I want to, he wants to hold on to that memory, but a lot of people don't. They're like, I feel safe again.
Right.
And Ruth even realizes what the cost of that is when they begin the episode, she mentions that as part of her lead-in, which I thought was a great moment. That's a price that now she understands she's no longer willing to pay. Which is why she refuses to cancel out Melanie and gets sent to compost.
Damn. I thought he was going to do something worse with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Took off the teals.
I really thought he was going to do something. I was like, no, not my Ruth.
Yeah, don't mess with Ruth.
Well, that was echoes of the shame walk.
Yes.
In King's Landing.
Yep.
Shame.
Take off those teals.
Yeah, he lost the teals.
Yeah.
She got him back, though.
She got them back.
He did. That was another great scene.
That was good.
The one with Kevin and the cattle prod or whatever.
Damn Kevin.
Yeah.
Right?
She needed him hard. I was full on, man.
And the way that she acted her violence, right? So that when she came with Leighton and screaming in the car and hacked the guy.
Yeah.
There was no real skill about it. She was going to wield the violence and did it. And with Kevin, she just, you could see her struggling to poke him with the stick, right? She wasn't really skilled at it.
Yeah.
That's she's never that's how she's been in that space. And I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
She was actually, I think, the best actor in the show. I really thought her slow reveal, her slow undoing was what Season 2 was about, right? Her slow unraveling, not undoing. Sorry.
Yeah.
I still think, though, it's a little too, I don't know. I felt like it was quick. I felt like her and the forgiveness of the tailies to people who have done things to them was fast, but I get it. We had 10 episodes. We couldn't stay there forever, but I felt like it was really quick. And then her forgiveness of Melanie was quick because she was so adamant in last season about how hurt she was that Melanie had lied all this time. And then it just seemed like over one episode it switched. I would have liked to seen that stretched out a little bit. I mean, I guess it was, I don't know why I felt like it just felt quick.
Yeah.
The forgiveness aspect and the
or as you would say, writing past it, not really delving into it.
Maybe that's what it is.
But maybe if you're in those sort of situations where life has sort of been so downgraded and you see what the alternative is with, the way things are going with sort of the hatred of some of the train, because they're sort of kept separate in that, when they mix, it's been bad and they know that things are going to be bad with Wilford. But I agree. Some of that didn't seem to mesh, and the little girl, like sometimes I just think that those are just wasted scenes.
Yeah.
Like I like some little kids, but I just don't find that one particularly working for me very well.
Oh, really? I think she's cute.
She is.
I'm not
cute,
saying she's not cute.
Yeah.
I'm just saying sometimes the actual character part of it.
Oh, well, no.
No, I mean, I sort of compare it with little lady Mormont in
there's no comparison.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Mormont was a kid? I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And another thing that's jarring to me is
they had her because she lost her brother, she lost her mom because, they froze her arm off and she died from it later. Now, whether a little kid's making that association, they did have Ruth and her do some of the stuff.
Where's Miles?
Like you say, it was maybe a little too quick on that.
That's jarring to me.
Part of what I'm saying is I don't think those things always work for me. I agree. I think she's a cute kid. But compared to some of the other things where it really drives it forward and seems true to the situation, I don't always find that they pull that one off.
Even the Winnie, what you're saying, the forgiveness between her and Ruth to me was fast.
Very quick.
And very quick.
One scene.
I get it. She's a little kid, and so little kids are resilient, but I feel like that was really fast. And I wish what they could have done, which I know they couldn't based on how the story went, is if Ruth would have had that conversation in that room during the revolution where she saw the ramifications, like the physical people not in that setting, because she saw them back then, but she didn't really see them as people in the tale. But now that they're out and they're helping to fight this revolution and they could have all killed her, whatever. I wish she could have had that realization of the impact of what she'd done under the guise of having order on the train. And then the forgiveness and the changing of her flowed with Melanie. And then everything could have, and then I would have, to me, made a little bit more sense, but it kind of happened in the opposite. It was just all of a sudden she's like, okay, I forgive you, and I'll take care of Alex if she comes over here, and make sure you come back. And just an episode ago, she was like telling her off and stuff. I don't know. Maybe I missed it. I think I'm going to go back and watch that and just make sure it's just not me. But it's just like it didn't even portray it as if she was wanting to forgive Melanie, but making herself not, because she was still trying to be mad at her because she was so hurt.
Yeah.
Which I think is what it was, but I don't know. It just kind of, that part. And that last scene when Melanie was going to go off and they kind of cried a little bit. I really loved that scene. I just think it was kind of quick.
I think they could have, and I'm going to use the phrase, done a better job of marking the passage of time. We never really knew, was it the next day? Was it the next month? Was it 3 months? Was it a year? I mean, they did have some stuff implying time with the days that had passed since they shot off the last balloon and how long Melanie had gone. But I think a little more, for me, a little more, maybe they tried to do it in subtle ways, like people's hair length and stuff, and I just didn't pick up on it. But a little more using the context to spread out time so that maybe, we can think, maybe there's been time here. And I'll say, another thing I'll say is, why were the tailies still in the tail? A revolution has occurred. Why is there no redistribution of wealth? Right? Why is Leighton taking a first class booth?
People were killing him.
There was a redistribution of wealth, but not space on the train. So they changed the diet, and everybody was going to get the same amount. But they didn't. And I thought they did some changes, but
they tried.
But they didn't do a complete. They didn't do a complete breakdown. Like first class still stayed in first class for the most part. But they changed. The main thing was changing the diet, and I would guess access to healthcare through the doctor.
Yeah.
But the other stuff didn't change for the most part.
No,
there were a few changes.
Here's Leighton, who convinced people to put their lives on the line to get out of that life, to get them into another life, and then they're all still staying back in that space. And I don't know how much time passed over, so whether or not it was logistically possible, my experience of Leighton last year was that he would have, and they didn't have him really pledge his allegiance to the tailies again this season until the last episode, right? But he would have been, I experienced him as someone would have said, no, we've got to get that life's back there, and this life you're living here, guys, we are not doing this anymore. right? And help me figure out how to change this. I was a little surprised they didn't do a little more in that vein, so that we see people living in different spaces.
Yeah, they didn't do that. They did do the food and they did the jobs. So people got jobs in different places, and there was some movement, and that's what led to some of the aggro and issues in the season, was the fact that they were interacting and that people got caught out. I forget the name of the woman in the back of the tail. They got jumped. So they had some of those
lights.
things. Yeah, lights.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, there was some stuff, but there definitely wasn't, like, the space part wasn't really addressed, other than LJ losing her digs.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they became Leighton's digs.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, those digs aren't Leighton's digs. The Leighton's digs were people that killed themselves when the revolution.
Oh, that's right.
Revolution.
Right.
We don't know what happened.
The older couple.
To LJ's parents.
Well, Pike was partying there for a while.
So maybe he took
some of the others.
Maybe somebody else took it over. And that lady they arrested.
No, you're right. It was a couple that committed suicide during the revolution. Very convenient.
There was just, I know. Exactly. Yeah, you're right. There wasn't.
You got a lovely apartment for you and Zara.
Which I still don't get. Why would he need to live there with her ass?
Yeah.
Why not take her back to the
He's got his baby. He's got the baby.
His baby.
I mean, the thing is,
they had their moment in the booth, all that stuff.
She had a lot of moments, though, not just with Leighton.
We don't know that they all went that way.
Sister LM and Sister J think that it's not Leighton's baby. They think it's
it's not his babies.
One of her husband's babies.
Mm-hmm.
She had 2 husbands or 3.
Exactly.
So he's willing to start a revolution and ask people to lay down their lives, and a lot of them die. And then when it's all over, his theoretical baby and his lover are more important than what they just fought over.
It's the future of mankind.
They did show him humankind struggle with that.
That's the argument.
Well, it's
otherwise it's all over. If there aren't any more kids, then everybody's going to time out in 70, 80 years.
So the thing is, you write Leighton to either not know what he's doing, and that explains what I would call all these moves he made, or you write him so he has an idea of what he's doing, and he recognizes when you've asked people to lay their lives on the line, the next move is to give them the life that they fought for and not take it for yourself. You go taking that stuff for yourself. It's like, well, what?
Yeah. Why would I follow you
up there, bro? Yeah. I mean, I'm back here. Or go to third class or something, but do not. So when they have him make those choices, I already said my bit about Leighton. I think they wrote him way too thin this season. Yeah,
they spread him out too thin.
Well, they just took away all his mojo. Then he's got mojo. Yeah.
But I mean, it's also the difference between leading the revolution and then running the government.
Exactly.
It's a lot sexier to be the revolutionary going to take everything over than making sure that everybody gets fed, that everybody gets medical care, that you keep the train on the track so you don't all die. Like that's not the interesting stuff. Unless you're an engineer, then it's interesting. But I think part of it is also the challenges that Leighton is facing are different this time and maybe not as interesting. Also, I think I would agree that he wasn't written nearly as fully as he could have been.
Yeah.
That's probably, I would suggest it's a combination.
The only reason he was successful last season is because he was smart and because he was about people. He was smart and he was about people, and he knew people just as well as anybody on that train. And I didn't see him know people this year. I just didn't see him. And Zara, believe me, you're with her.
I know. Really?
What? No. Okay. Yeah.
I just still don't.
But also the system fell apart.
Understand it.
The system wasn't able to continue because Melanie was propping it up with, the specter or the spirit of Wilford, and she couldn't do it. Like they had that whole scene when she took, speaking of Zara, took Zara's hand, she couldn't do it. Like her whole body revolted. She threw up. She knew what she had to do to keep that going, but she physically couldn't do it.
Oh, you mean
Josie's was
Josie's
coming
hand.
apart.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Josie's
Josie,
hand.
Yeah.
We wish it was Zara's hand, but it was Josie's hand. So that part of it was the system was falling apart, so it didn't have the sort of forward momentum. So it was able to sort of be taken out by Leighton and the group. It just, but you know, so then like I say, you've got to run everything.
Yeah,
he realized he didn't have to. That was the final episode. The Leighton that wasn't there, the Leighton that was doing his job, and no one was saying, dude, we got your back, right? And he wasn't saying, y'all, we need to do this together. You need to help me now. And I think that's what the guy last season would have said. That's just how I felt it, right? Because he was such a badass.
He was, but then he realized, which was a really great scene in the last episode of last season, I think it was, when Melanie was like, yeah, well, you think it's that simple. You're going to have to make a choice. Yep. When he either had to deal with that sergeant who was coming to kill them all, or uncouple the train and let those people die. And there were some innocent people in there. There were some tailies in there. And then the guards and Lila's parents. And that like changed his, I think, viewpoint of all the decisions that Melanie had to make. Now, she didn't have to make a lot of those decisions. They were still some janky ass decisions.
No,
you know,
definitely.
Yeah.
But it kind of turned, maybe like it turned us around on Melanie to where, okay, she had a reason in her mind. It might not have been right to why she was doing the stuff she was doing. And we know now that we've seen Wilford, she really wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen him been that bad yet either, though. We haven't seen him free. I mean, despite these people that killed the brakeman, he froze them out. But other than that, we haven't seen him really do anything to anybody besides the Kevin and the.
Well, he didn't do it though. I mean, that's
yeah.
That's
we do know that he killed 100 people on Alice.
Yeah, he culled like half of Big
true.
Alice.
That's true.
With his census.
But I'd like
everybody over 39 was elderly. Did you catch that?
Jesus.
We'd all be done
been
for
in
it.
that train too damn long.
Yeah, that was the response to the doctor. She's like, elderly? And Ruth was like,
really?
What?
What I really like about what you said just a second ago, Sister K, was
what I say, I forgot already.
There you go. No, it has to do with Leighton doing things that led to people's death, right? Because it's clear that he's a killer, right? In the sense that he was willing to kill people during the revolution, but now he's got to kill people for different reasons, right? And it's kind of the righteous indignation of a revolution versus the cold-hearted calculation of what's better for everyone. And so it's not that he didn't use violence. It's, why is he using violence? Why are people being harmed? And I like the fact that you pointed out that violence is there. It's just how you use it and why. And I guess what they could have felt that, him using violence that way was too much for him to handle. I mean, they showed that with Melanie as well.
They did.
Then I wish they would have focused a bit more on that in the writing.
I do too.
Instead of some of the
and explain where the hell the little baby boy engineer was. He wasn't nowhere in that engineering car.
He's gone. Yeah, we saw him once this season.
And if he was that promising of a engineer, we should have seen him. I mean, I get that probably the little kid had something else to do and you couldn't get, maybe there was a scheduling, but explain something.
They should have shown us how safe life was in the engineer school. I mean, he was in engineer school. So show me him in engineer school and how that's still going on in this post-revolution space.
They may have to, because we don't know if. So do you guys all think, speaking of engineers, that Javi's going to come back, or did he get finished off?
No,
he's dog food.
I think he's the next medical experiment.
Mm-hmm. No, he's digested.
Oh, you think?
Already.
Interesting.
Jupiter done already pooped him out.
Uh-oh.
All right. Well,
you don't think
he got ate up, y'all?
Could the Headwoods bring him back though?
No.
And Alex watched all that, correct or not?
Mm-hmm. She did.
So that's part of her. That's part of her origin story for season 3 in terms of where she goes. I mean, she's the only one who, if I remember correctly, actually used violence against Wilford, and then was slashing him with the razor. Right.
And he cried like a stuck pig.
Didn't get him good enough.
Not good.
No.
Well, that was a teeny tiny
good.
little braid.
I know, but she got the good parts.
She did.
And she was wielding that razor blade in and out of her mouth.
In her mouth.
Easily, man. I'm just saying, no.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
when he
gonna
slapped her, it cut her.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I think it did, and she took it out, and she was bleeding.
Okay. But I'm saying, okay. I just thought she looked a little too expert at that.
Well, I mean, when they had the plan to kill Leighton, she had it in her hands pretty expertly. She was practicing.
She had that in her mouth, and then she had it out.
I did like
She's an angry teenager.
Yeah.
I did like the scene with her in the cage. Where
that was very interesting, right?
Banging on the cage, and you think, she's trying to get out, and she says, "No, I can get out of here anytime. He just wants me to, do what he wants." And I thought,
that was interesting.
It was.
I'm like, is she in jail?
At first,
No,
I was
she's
a little
not.
confused because he says, "Come up, train when you're ready."
And
then they showed her banging. I'm like, well, are you gonna open the door? How's she gonna get out?
Exactly.
And then when she did say, "No, I can get out. Y'all go ahead and go on. He's got a hidden compartment or whatever." I was like, oh, then what was you doing banging on the cell for then?
I liked it because Leighton goes, "You're in."
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. You got the info.
You're right. And Leighton's comments were much more season 1 Leighton.
Leighton, yes.
Which gets to Will's point. They were trying to write him as if this new role rendered him incompetent, and therefore he couldn't be himself until he was back into that role as a rebel,
as the underdog having to fight his way to justice or something.
Yeah. And it just depends on if you buy that as a viewer,
Well, and he got the partner in Ruth that he needed. And then she came and gave them the information they needed. They knew that they were coming, got the communication going. She's able to tell Leighton's coming up and, get all that stuff going. It's like, each side has their own sort of pieces of information, the way they make it work. We don't really know how Wilford's getting out all of his information most of the time, but we can see how it's working with, I don't know, you're going to call it the Leighton crew or the crew running it. But I thought that was good.
Yeah. There were some really good moments in that. And
also like Lake. Oh, go ahead. No.
The guy, when Alex did go to see Leighton in the pit, I forgot what they called it already.
The swamp
pit, the swamp, and that
compost.
Guard. Yeah, the compost, and the guard left and let her have a minute. I kept thinking, well, the guard obviously is kind of sympathetic, because when Leighton and Wilford were having that conversation, and Leighton was telling him, just your people are never going to love you like you want them to, because you're whatever, and they kind of showed that guy looking like and then Wilford kind of looking back like, oh shit. I kept thinking, okay, he's going to be kind of a sympathetic person, but then when they had to end up I guess they killed the guy. I don't know if he's dead or what.
They killed him.
They shivved him.
Well,
they
stabbed him,
lassoed him.
I was like, well, damn.
When you say that now, it makes me. It's like he paid for his neutrality too, right? He paid for his skating along the system as well. by just like Roche did, right? Roche ended up in a drawer, and he ended up getting shivved. And making the point, it may not be to your benefit to stay neutral.
Yeah, you gotta pick a side.
Yeah.
You know who else we didn't see? We didn't see that weird doctor either. That was taking care of the drawer people.
Not at all. I don't think we saw him the whole season.
Yeah, I don't think we did either.
So my question is that, we found out the people that were in the drawers were the drug that they used to keep them in there was the drug that people were taking that was causing all the side effects and all the nasty black stuff in their mouth and stuff. Do they have a better way over on Big Alice to put people in drawers? Do they have the same, you know what I'm saying?
I think that dude's just in a drawer. I think the drawer doctor got put into a drawer.
Probably.
Right?
Yeah.
I think he really pissed Wilford off at the end of the season last year. I don't remember exactly. But, well, I don't even know where those drawers were. I don't know if those were Snowpiercer drawers or.
Those are Big Alice.
Those were Big Alice drawers.
Yes, they were Big Alice drawers.
Well, they probably got that tech perfected, given they got a sociopath in charge. Right?
He's been experimenting on people.
Because he's going to want to wake them up and torture them later, right? He's not going to want them decaying in that drawer.
Apparently.
He's working, so.
Apparently.
Yeah.
And we also never saw again Till's girlfriend.
No.
Right?
Ex-girlfriend.
Right. We never saw her again.
She won't be diving in for any more sushi.
No, she won't.
No, not now. Oh my gosh. How cool
I was sorry to see the aquarium go.
Yeah.
That was like my favorite part.
That was the special effect of both seasons. That crack in the ice just tearing through that was brilliant.
Yeah.
That
was fun to watch.
Josie running.
Go Josie.
Up until that point, I was like, okay, y'all, that was so fake. You can tell it was like,
oh yeah. How fast is that train going?
Exactly. And it's freezing.
And there's got to be wind,
Yeah.
And she was just like, and it was just, you could tell it was animation, which I'm okay with them switching between the animation and the real, but.
That you make a really good point, and this is something that came up in the thing we do. One of my colleagues just really didn't like the world building that they did in terms of what are the rules outside. When is the wind too strong? When is it too cold? And the idea that when the series started, Wilford wasn't even there, so the big baddie was the cold.
Yeah,
and now the big baddie isn't the cold. People can actually walk around in it, but. minus 95, and running on top of the train.
And she didn't have the big overcoat and stuff that what's his name, Bosovich puts on.
I think they're trying to get us to fill in the gaps that she is really a superhero, right? I think that's by having Icy Bob there and looking all messed up, and okay, that's the beta version, and here she comes, and this is it. We've got,
like they say, she's orders of magnitude better in the cold than Icy Bob was, and Icy Bob, was more than anybody else could do. So, orders of magnitude, and she gets off on the cold.
Yeah, she likes it.
I mean, when she puts her hand and she's like, so she's out running in the cold in her black leather gear.
She's getting like a new hand,
I'll be a superhero.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she got her. I don't know who that was teaching her about that. I didn't know that character, but
that was her first and only episode so far.
Okay. I was gonna say
she had not appeared before. I went and checked it out.
Yeah.
Well, all this stuff when they actually talked to Josie about it are cool, and I thought that was a good scene, her with the doctors. But the scene that she and Wilford had, 2 episodes ago, I think it was, that was great. And the way they sort of showed how he's able to manipulate people that hate him.
Right.
And she obviously hated his guts.
Yeah.
But, she'd been through so much, and,
she was in such pain too.
And that scene, the phantom limb pain.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that was great. Like I said, that's
a real phenomenon where you actually stroke someone's one hand and they look like you're stroking the other, and they actually
feel it,
their pain.
Feel it.
And what, for me, actually, that was one of the more, the scene with Osweiler singing for me was the peak scene of the season, to be honest. But this one was the intellectually dense scene where he's showing her, you're I'm so deep in your brain, I can cause pain that I can ease pain that you can't see me easing.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really cool. I'm glad you mentioned that, Will, because I kind of forgotten about it.
Yeah, no, like I said, that like those scenes were great in that Phantom scene was one of the best of the show.
He says, just wait, just let me show you.
Yeah,
it's like, dude, don't even touch me, man.
Right.
Stay away.
But do touch me because I want to know what you're talking about.
What are you talking about? Because I'm in pain. I don't want to have pain anymore. But yes, when she did get to that aquarium, and I was thinking, okay, what is the goal? I mean, what is she going to do? What was the plan that Ben had for her when she finally got out there?
Right.
And when she started hitting the aquarium, I was like, oh, Lord, the poor fish and the animals.
Yeah.
But
quick death.
Eat them while they're fresh.
Yeah.
Freshly frozen.
Except it exploded.
Well, that's true.
The car just blew up.
Yeah.
Even Wilford went flying.
Yeah.
And then this was, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Then remember what you were going to say, but then the interesting thing too is then later we see them stopped. And they were hot. They weren't freezing.
They weren't burning off their energy. I have to assume that's, in other words, this perpetual motion engine, you have to move to burn off the energy you're generating.
Or it's just going to keep
or just it turns into
building up. Okay.
Exactly. At least that's the vibe I got.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're only so many cars long now. They're pretty short with that big engine.
It's 10 cars, I think.
Yeah. So that could be part of it too.
So now everyone gets to know everyone.
Yeah. Right.
It's a neighborhood.
And how is Big Alice going to move 1,024 cars or whatever the hell?
She's been moving them.
Yeah, she's big.
She's been moving them.
Yeah, I what I did like eventually, I mean, there is a certain tropeness to the idea that you've got the one big baddie who wants all of the power. And ultimately, the only way the one big baddie is defeated is when diversity comes together, combines its talents, combines its diverse expertise. And that's how this played out, right? Everybody with their own super skill, bringing it to the table. You do this, you do this, you do this, and we'll put it all together and we'll defeat the one baddie. And I get that. And I enjoy it when I see it. It's always a challenge to write the baddie. Yeah, that's the thing, is it's always a challenge to write that character. And like I said, Sean Bean nailed it. So
now, where do y'all think Ruth is? Because when she's stuck on the Wilford side,
she got left behind,
right?
Yeah,
because she couldn't get out from Kevin quick enough to get back up to the front. And when that aquarium exploded and she's looking out the window, I'm like, oh damn!
I know.
Stuck.
I love it.
Yeah.
You know, all throughout the season, I was experiencing the relationship between Wilford and Ruth as a very English relationship between a regular citizenry and the royalty, right? And not that I've ever lived in England and had that experience, but I know people who have, and there's almost a religious form of awe in the relationship, even though they're both human beings. There's just this almost sacred hierarchy, if you like. And so seeing her kind of moved out of that relationship with him, and now she's stranded with him. I love it, right? How is she gonna do? I mean, I honestly thought Ruth was gonna kill Wilford. I kind of felt that's how that he would go, but
it would be Ruth.
They don't want him to go. They want him around, and Alex did the violence, and that made sense. So, but I love the fact that she's on the train with him and stuck. And what are you?
What's he going to do with her?
She's going to have to hide. She's going to have to duck and dodge and hide as much as she can.
He likes to play dangerous, and I would disagree, Scott, with your thing, because I married into a Brit family, and they're definitely, do not adhere to any of the royalty things. But classism is definitely a strong thing in Britain. Especially depending on what country you're in. I think it'll be interesting to see how he wants to play it, because he likes to play people off. And this is a perfect situation of, I know stuff. Do you think I'm going to kill you? Do you think I'm going to grab you? And because Ruth is going to continue on of like, I'm in my teals. And, that's her armor. It's not her secret weapon, but it's her armor. So she's in teals, and she knows she can kill if she has to. I don't think she saw in that situation she had to. I don't think she sees that necessarily now. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they all play in that sort of situation until they get hooked up. Because is it really his train?
Right. And did Josie make it to the front? Is she in with them?
We don't know.
Or did we see her at the end? I can't remember. Was she in the engine?
I thought she made it in, but they didn't explain how she got in, because he said basically you're going to have to smash your way in. I thought he said to her. Okay. But she ended up. But I wanted to know where Sykes was at the end, because I thought her take on it would have been awesome once they stopped doing it. Like, what's she going to do? Because she's thinking like, they must have put her somewhere, but I thought it was weak not to have her there, because I thought her take would have been great. And should we go back to the can of whoop ass she opened on Ben, Sister K, because she was tagging him up.
Oh, I loved it when he got that little baton, and she's like, "Oh, do you know how to work that? Okay, I'm gonna show you." And then she says, "I'm gonna show you." I was like, yes.
She took him to school.
Yeah, she did.
She took him to school.
Yeah, she laid him out.
Well, he resorted to violence at the exact wrong time. I mean, you're in a room with the best fighter on the damn train, and that's when you're going to use violence.
Yeah,
but he needed time. He needed time because the train the churn.
Yeah.
And so, that was the only thing he had. He was playing for time to get to that point, and
he had Wilford in the train, put a bag over his head, game over.
So many times, it's true. Yeah.
I just those are the times when I kind of felt like I was listening to poetry more than watching a serious take on people's behavior. And I'm not saying I love poetry, man. You know what I love? What I mean by poetry is creative. This is a metaphor. I get all that. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure on that, because what Wilford did play, they sort of figured it out. They seemed to think that they could get it to work. They also knew that the only person that could save the train at that point was Wilford. And how much risk do you want to put in that? And whether you can bag his head. Because Wilford would rather, take his ball and go home, or watch his train fall off if you can't be in charge. So if he thought it was game over for him, he's not going to prison.
So
you're all going with me. And he knew that the train wasn't going to work.
He gave you the God box, right? He fixed the train. All right. Now, Melanie taught you what to do next. You just keep telling everybody he's there. No one sees Wilford, right? So just do what Melanie did. Just tie him up, put a bag over his head. And then if you need him to come out, you need him to come out. How many times has Melanie got to teach you guys how to do this?
I suppose that's true.
Are you trying to say that a man can do a woman's job, Scott?
Well, some days.
Just kidding.
When she needs a break, yes.
But like I said, even she realized that she couldn't maintain the ways of Wilford, because it destroyed her to a point where she couldn't be herself.
Keep it up anymore.
That's what happened, with her and Josie. So,
no, I get
your... Yeah,
I know that's how they wrote it. I just think, why wouldn't Leighton then have a conversation with Ben? Melanie told me before we left I should be close to Ruth. Why haven't I done that? Melanie taught us how to pretend that Wilford's not here. Oh, why haven't I done that? I mean, yeah, they wrote it the way they wrote it, and I agree. One could make it work, I guess. But there were. I'll just stop. I
don't know that he
let him get in the engine and then let him tell you what to do.
Because they're too worried about the engine, about them stopping or something happening. I just would have let it happen. I say we'll deal with it. If you want to let it happen, I'm gonna let you let it happen.
Yeah.
And we'll just sit here looking at each other until we freeze to death.
And then you invite
but
Alex
isn't that
to
the
a
whole
conversation.
But isn't that the whole sort of debate between like Wilford thinks he's got Leighton down because Leighton won't do the big kill. You're not going to cut Audrey's throat because that's not who you are.
Right.
He would cut Audrey's throat or tell Audrey to cut your own throat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's the sort of difference is like Leighton's not going to do that, but Wilford will. So it's that whole thing of, you know, when you play with someone playing by different rules, how do you make that work?
You put a bag over his head, tie him up. You invite Alex to come up and be the engineer in Big Alice.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? You have a conversation with the smart folk. You organize yourselves and you tell everybody, hey, Ruth, we got to tell everybody that Wilford's still here. I'm not saying
and go back to the old way. Yeah.
But you just don't stick people's arms out the damn door. And it's
okay.
You know,
give them crap to eat.
I didn't write it. They wrote it, and the things that they did, regardless, paid off in the last episode. You know, the Osweiler moment was worth it for me, and then the scene with the hands and Wilford and Josie, that was worth it.
That was,
you know, all of it was worth.
All the Josie stuff was good.
Yeah, exactly.
I do want to know where Icy Bob is right now, though. Like, where is he? He wasn't in any of those rooms. He wasn't.
They kill him off.
Yeah, is he
dead? Didn't kill him. They didn't do anything with him. He came in and he'd been in the cold, but you know they were basically treating him.
Rehab.
Somebody gave him a bunch of pills. Was it the doctor? After he had come in his last expedition, I'm not sure.
Oh,
but.
See, that's a relationship I would have liked to have seen some time spent on, because
that was good.
Icy Bob knew what she was doing.
He knew she was doing something.
And he knew that he wanted to be more like her. So how does Josie teach Icy Bob how to be a badass that doesn't just do what Wilford says?
Yeah.
Right. And how are they conspiring together? And I would have been much more interested in Teal and the preacher.
Oh, hello.
Or,
yes.
Whatever.
Definitely.
Preacher, you know. And you know, I love the idea of Icy Bob being an encouraging dude.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he was. I mean, he taught her how to focus her pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when she was first there, that was a really good scene too. I really liked that.
Fantastic scene.
You know, this big scary dude who's obviously going through his own pain. And then that other scene after he taught her how to focus her pain, when he did see her at the laundry bag doing whatever, and he just wanted her pills. They could have played that up like, because he's in so much pain even still.
Yeah.
He's like hoarding these pills for what? Is it to kill himself? Is it just to ease his pain? What's he doing? And how is he in his own way going to strike back against Wilford or not? That would have been very interesting. Yeah. So I wanted to know during this whole time when they're building up Josie, you're the best thing since sliced bread now.
Yeah, where's
you're way even better than Icy Bob. Where is he at? Is he over there listening? I mean, did he go back to wherever he lives? You know, in the bunks? Where is he at?
Yeah, you need a really big bunk. I don't think he's in the bunk.
Yeah.
Really big bunk. That was also a great scene that reminded me of Game of Thrones when he stood up and went over to her to get the pills. How big he was compared to her.
I don't think that was camera work either.
No,
he was a big guy.
They were really
big. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow. So overall, this season, what do y'all give this season? As a grade or a number? I don't even know what. Thumbs up, thumbs down, A+, B, whatever measurement of satisfaction.
So I have to be careful because I have a lot of respect for writers, right? And I haven't ever written anything like this. So what I'd love to see is a documentary for every episode. Show me an hour of the writing room. Show me how these groups are making these decisions about where to go with these characters. So, I'm sitting here saying the things I felt like Leighton was underwritten or thinned out for the season. But I am also willing that's just me. And I would love to hear how the writers think. So I just because of what they did to Leighton and again, Sean Bean did such a good job. It's just that, I have to give it an A-, B+. The Osweiler moment saved it. It's just, how you get those moments where everything else was done for that. And for him to start singing Where Is Love as an answer to Wilford's question of do I really need you was just brilliant. And it was like this big light shone on everything, and everybody suddenly realized who they were, where they were, and what the hell was going on. And I thought, if I ever write anything that well, I'll take all the lumps about the way I get there. So, but I have to weight it as an A- because I love that moment. So I'll say A-, B+.
Awesome.
Okay.
And Will?
That was not supposed to be a non-starter, y'all.
No, I love it.
No, I really liked it too. And I think part of the issues that they had with Leighton was just him getting used to his, the new role that he had, and having at the end of last episode of season 1, he's just got to deal with a completely different setup. I'm probably in the same boat with Scott. It's probably an A-, and if I get really irritated, a B+. But it's really solid. Some stuff that's kind of weak, but for the overall story going forward, and normally when you get to a season finale, you're just kind of like, it's not as resolved. Like, I think they set this one up really interesting. Like, it could go pretty much anywhere.
It really could.
Like I said, there could be other billionaires out there. What are they going to do? How are they going to try to rehook up? They've actually stopped. So they've broken all these rules. And so it's almost like they can redo the whole thing. So they've really sort of set it up for the next season. What I really hope is that they have a plan. We are doing 4 seasons, or we are doing 5 seasons.
Yeah,
we know where we're going, and that this is not just because they don't know what they're doing.
Yes.
Like, that would be really cool. And so, it's a great show. Some of it's annoying, but for the most part, there's enough cool stuff going on, and they've done a great job with it. One of the things I loved was the scene where they're going under the Northern Lights. With the train and the ice falling off as they go through. I'd like to know a little bit more, like you're saying, Scott, about some of the world building, and hopefully we'll get some of that with the climate model that that came out. And so I think they've set it up for a really interesting next season. You can always quibble with things, but for the most part, they did a good job with season 2.
Yeah.
This conversation has reminded me of another one of my favorite scenes of the season, and it maybe has me experience it a little differently. And that's the scene where Wilford knows that he has saved the train. Wilford knows that he's going to be able to tell everybody that he has saved the train, and Leighton is devastated. It's almost as if all the thin writing of Leighton was for that moment, because that moment of self-doubt in Leighton was just crushing. It was hard to watch. It was beautifully acted. Whether or not I believe that was the character from season 1, it doesn't matter really. It was just, I have so much power. You have no idea where you are. I mean, everything was on the table against Leighton at that moment, and he doesn't kill him. You're going to stay alive and you're going to shovel shit.
Yeah.
Just devastatingly ruthless. And so
you can sit in it longer. So you can be devastated longer. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a devastating scene.
I mean, I'm just going to go back to what you said. It's just one more little bit is Sean Bean has done so much in this season, the way that he was able to go through these range of emotions, just the way he deals with people, the capricious nature that he's got that you see executed. You're wondering, is he going to be malevolent? Is he going to be benevolent? How is he toying with this person? And he's able to keep all that going, which is what keeps it fresh. Like you just don't know what his character is going to do because he could do anything.
That's true.
And that he's able to pull that off as an actor is great. It's a lot of fun to watch, even when it's annoying. Like his villain mustache when he's doing the punch and shoot.
The ringmaster.
It just shows like he's got this little bit of kid that comes out in this malicious way. And Ben calls it propaganda. No one's going to buy your propaganda. Well, most of them are going to buy it, Ben. But he's able to keep all that going. It's great, and it's sort of an interesting counterpoint to Melanie, whether she's there, whether she's not. She's a driving force, and you just sort of see him just sort of going back and forth. So, sort of great to watch Sean Bean in this season, and he should get nominated for an Emmy, but I don't think the Emmys are going to recognize Snowpiercer. So somehow.
Speaking of that, real quick,
it's not Sean Bean's fault.
No, not at all.
If the Emmys ignore the Snowpiercer, it won't be Sean Bean's fault.
Before we get to Sister A's thoughts, great, and mine, I'll have a question that just popped in my head. What do y'all think's Melanie and Wilford's relationship was before the Ice Age, Ice-Mageddon or whatever happened? Because the other sisters have some interesting theories on their relationship and the parentage of Alex.
Who's Alex's dad?
Yeah. Earlier on in the season, I don't know if I have always agreed with that, though, because I'm thinking, would he treat Alex the way he has treated her if he was her dad? So have y'all had those thoughts of...
I did wonder about whether they'd had it because he plucked her out. Wasn't she like in high school or something? Or
he said something about
17
and sort of brought her out. So it was clear that she could have been impressionable, that something could have happened. And I think if Alex is his daughter, I don't think he would care. It's all about him. Everything is an extension of him. His toys, the way he wants things to work. It would make sense that she's his daughter.
It would.
And it would explain a lot why he's even more maybe willing to or be amused by some of her transgressions as long as she doesn't go too far. Like he seems like she seems to know when to push him and when not to push him and sort of how far. So she seems to have him pretty well played. I mean, it's hard to say whether they happen or not. It certainly seemed like there was a pretty good chance that they had a relationship and that it had ended early. What was my take? I'm like, so if this happened, it wouldn't last.
It wouldn't last.
She's really smart and she's got a quick ramp up, and that it wouldn't take long for her to get beyond that. But he's also smart on how to use people, and he needs a really good engineer. And that's part of the reason he hasn't killed Ben, because he thinks he needs Ben. And he liked Javi better, but he didn't think he was as good as an engineer.
Yeah.
Well, and when go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Which was that look on his face when Javi said, "You need me. You're not going to kill me. You need engineers." And he was like,
"Really?
Attack."
You just
well, that's like saying to somebody, and he's like, "Well, I don't care. Okay, I need you, but I'll kill you anyway because you said I couldn't."
Yeah. Just because.
I wouldn't have said anything to Wilford at that point.
I would have said,
if you want to live, you got to play the Wilford game, which is
during go ahead. During our first podcast, I said they were lovers. I
do think that. Yes, I do think that
amount of hate, right? That amount of I mean, and the people I was talking to said, "No, dude, she stole his train," and that makes sense too, right? And she left him to die, by the way.
She did,
right? She just straight up left him to die. So I guess that level of hate could be generated that way. But I did suspect. I thought they were. Over the course of the season, I became to be persuaded that they weren't, just because more and more the way he behaved towards everyone else indicated his hate for her wasn't unique. Right? He just hates people unless they love him. And so
and even the ones that love him,
the idea
he doesn't like.
He doesn't like that.
Or if they make a mistake.
And in true sociopathic fashion, they are his tools. And then, someone actually says it in the last episode, something about, oh, I love the line where Ruth says to Zara, all you need to do is be something Wilford needs. And so I love that.
Oh, that was to Till.
Was it to Till?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And I love that line came out of Ruth, because basically, and then someone actually used the word tools later on in the episode. I don't remember who said it, but that's something we had discussed earlier. That's how a sociopath sees people, as might as well be a screwdriver. And someone actually said, you're just a screwdriver to him, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, interesting thing is how desperate he seemed. Well, maybe desperate's not quite the right word, to be Alex's favorite over Melanie. Like, he's poisoned her, and is it just because of the train, or is it because, it's like the divorced parent thing? Either one, you don't need the other one, but just that they build on each other, it seems to be such a driving force that even there, he's like, whose opinion does he really care about the puppet show? Alex's, because he's sticking it to Melanie on the mountaintop.
Yeah.
So that's, it doesn't have to be, but it certainly adds a lot more, grist to the mill on that's what is part of the driver.
That's why at times I felt like there was a bit of a parable going on, in terms of, you got the rich old white billionaire guy who just can't come to grips with the new diverse world we're seeing now, right? We're seeing more women in power, we're seeing more people of color in power, and he just can't handle it. So that's why I sometimes felt when I used the word poetry, it was like I was more reading a parable than, because, and that's not an insult or anything. I mean, Lovecraft Country was fantastic, and there were a lot of parts of it that were parable, right? They weren't, straight up expository composition about those characters. So, that's why I had that vibe on occasion. And did any of you watch Avatar: The Last Airbender? The animated cartoon series? Okay, then I won't say anything about it. Go ahead.
Well, go ahead. Say if somebody else who's listening probably.
I'll just say that the marionette show, the penultimate episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender is called the Ember Island Players, and the protagonists, just before they come into conflict with the big baddie in the last episode, they go to this island and they go to this play, and the play is about them and everything they've been through over the last 3 seasons. And they get to see how the public is talking about them. And of course, they're all pissed off because the public's got it all wrong, right? But I love that idea of using that play as a way to make it clear to everybody exactly how Wilford thinks about all
what
of
he's
them.
thinking.
If they can't do it already by his regular actions. I just thought that's a clever device.
Interesting.
Of course, we knew how Wilford thought. He hates people. Right? So, I just thought it was clever.
And I feel like he does a lot of that just to get a rise out of certain people.
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
And Sister A, your thoughts on the season? And
I would give this, I would say, a BB plus. I really enjoyed this season. I really enjoyed just like the whole idea of what we're watching, these trains, this freeze, this, rebirth of humankind. And so I enjoyed watching every episode. I enjoyed podcasting every episode, which isn't always the case. I couldn't wait to see what was going to happen next. Really love some of these characters, and I can't wait to see what comes up in the next season. I hope it's as good. So
I do too. I would give it a B also. To me, the first season would be A plus.
Yep.
I really love that first season. But this one, I as much as I did enjoy it, I didn't find myself looking at my watch like, how long do I have left to watch this thing? I was, except for some of the preacher scenes and the Zara scenes, but other than that, but I did enjoy it as well. some things were rushed to me, but I still felt like, and we're missing people. All of a sudden, it's kind of like Walt in Lost. All of a sudden, he's gone. Like, where the hell is this kid? That kind of stuff that kind of gets on you're like, what the heck? Can they just at least have a good story to tell why he's not there? But other than that, I really did the same as you, Sistah A. I enjoyed it. I wasn't like hate watching. I wasn't dreading talking about it on the podcast every week. Like,
yes.
Some of the shows that we all have talked about before.
This one was not a chore.
It was not a chore.
Yep.
And even though they kind of veer off certain characters, it wasn't as much as some other shows that we always end up ragging on. So yes, I am excited to see what they're going to do. I really hope that we get Melanie back in most of the episodes next season, because I missed that chemistry between her and Leighton. I missed that interaction with her and Ruth and her and Leighton. And I want to see the interaction and Wilford. I really liked their interactions in the beginning of this season too, that back and forth, playing that chess game with each other. And I would love to see the dynamic now that Audrey is back over there under his influence. If Melanie comes back, because it's clear that he's going to put most of his attention on Melanie. Just either to one-up her or to figure out what she's doing or something. And I want to see what Audrey's reaction would be to that. I think that would be interesting if they did anything with it. But it's going to be interesting to see how they recouple. And it's Snowpiercer. Even if there are people that are in the ground or not on the train in a bunker, there's going to be some reason why they got to get back on that train. So I'm interested to see all of that.
It's all about the train.
And even though the stuff that I felt could have been done differently, I will say it all led to a fantastic finale. So it's not like we get to a finale that's crap. And you can see all the choices they made to get there. And I'm really glad that they got there. I may not be pleased with some of the ways they got there, but man, that finale was fantastic. Fantastic.
No, I thought it was great. I just had sort of two thoughts. And this just could be, we don't need to go into it, but do you think Wilford is more upset that Melanie stole his train, or the fact that she pretended to be him for 7 years or whatever it was? Like she was being Mr. Wilford to everybody. I was just thinking about it, just wondering. So I suspect that he stole the train, but I suspect the fact that she pretended to be him for all those years really irritated.
I think that probably overdid the stealing part.
And the fact that people were fine with it for that long. That no one
they weren't even looking for him for 8 years.
Him, that no one knew he wasn't there. Like, how did she do this?
Yeah.
And how did the people
Never even thought about it.
I raised up from the bottom not realize I wasn't there? I think that's what sticks into his craw most.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I also think when you ask really good questions like that, would Melanie really have run it the way he did for 7 years? Would she really have been sticking people's arms out of tubes? Right. I mean, and I myself don't believe it. Right. I don't believe that 7 years she'd never tried to change how order had been managed on the train. But I didn't see, the thing is, in the first season, you don't feel it that way.
Yeah.
Right. You just get to the end and you see, and you see her throwing up. Well, why wasn't she throwing up after year 2? Right. Yeah. I mean,
because she didn't have to see it. She didn't have to see it. So it was like removed. And I think she even, in her own mind, which they could address, they haven't done it, but I think she even considered them less than, not really people in the back. She probably didn't even think about them as humans. Because that was her way of
them as a thought. Yes.
That was her way of being able
to train.
In order.
She wanted to keep the train going.
Yeah.
And the only way she could think to do it was to do the order part so that they could keep the train going, and couldn't think, how can you maintain order? Now you've got the security guys that are happy to chop everybody up. And then people had, the billionaires had their own individual security guards with guns, but you don't want guns going off because they can put a hole in, and then, you've got all that Arctic air coming and killing everybody. So, but it's the idea of you try to maintain it, but it's not sustainable. How long can she sustain? Because the train's falling apart and she's falling apart. Because they make that point clear in season 1, is it's like, and they made it clear in this one is she had to jury rig it because it wasn't working.
Yeah.
So he has no idea. So he pulls the wrong thing at first because she's already updated it because they couldn't get it to work. I mean,
it was just a snowball effect, no pun intended, that just kind of, but when you go back and think about that first season, especially the first few episodes, you're like, wait, there really isn't a justification for some of that shit. It's just what she decided to do in the name of Wilford.
Yeah.
Well, she decided not, those were the rules, and they're all stated in Mr. Thing. She didn't break those.
Right.
Yes, and there's a story that's being told then. There's the story that's being told is how the privileged organize their lives so that they don't ever have to experience the suffering of the suffering. And in that sense, then, if that's the story they're telling, I get it. I'm not sure I believe that character would have been that person. I can see, that's all. And I appreciate that story, and it's very relevant, to be honest, and very important to me and very important to tell. So
because what seemed to be the overall driver in season 1 is if we don't keep the train going, humanity dies.
We're all dead.
We're all dead. If I can't keep this train running, we're all dead. We seem to get away with that in season 2. It's not as much of a driver because now you're dealing with the different forces that have been unleashed, because everything's bottled up into those sections, but it's all out, it's all pretty much out. People still have the places, like you say, it doesn't really break down where people live, but they're all mixing different, and that idea is changing. And the fact that you're going to enter in that there's going to be warming places, people will believe it. Some people won't believe it. How are they going to communicate it?
Yeah.
And maybe Ruth will go on. One thing I also thought is Ruth can now go on and say that Melanie's dead, because they got that because they'll communicate to her that Melanie's dead, because they think she's dead. Whether she is or not is another story. And then she's done what Wilford asked her to do. So then she actually is in charge of hospitality, and you can have the Ruth show.
Oh, that's a good, I don't think he'll put her in charge though. That he'll let her still have her teals.
Yes.
I don't know.
Working with Kevin.
Who he don't mind slapping, don't he?
Getting kneed and tasered too, man.
Yeah. She got him good.
That was solid.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank y'all so much for joining the podcast. We had some great discussion, and I so appreciate y'all always coming on with your insights. It makes me think of the show differently every time we talk.
Absolute pleasure.
It was great.
So for all of y'all out there, we will wrap up this season of Snowpiercer. You can find us everywhere, like Sister A say.
Airware.
We are everywhere. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We have a Patreon page where we have a lot of video content, and we are going to be out there with other podcasts. We don't know what our next drama is going to be, but we have some other ones that we are ongoing with right now. So just look for us out there. We don't need to give you particulars because y'all already know. Y'all already know where we at. Thank you again, Will. Thank you so much, Zombie Scotty.
Thanks for having us.
Sister A and Sister J and LM, who are not with us today, for a amazing season of Snowpiercer talk. That is it for now. I am Sister K.
I'm Will from Seatown.
I'm Zombie Scotty.
And I am Sister A.
See y'all next season. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Out.
Oh,
you were your Wilford.
W.
Wait a minute.
just to cause some controversy at the end.
Yes, he's throwing us for a loop.
B-Town mob crap again.
You betcha.
Man. Trying to set those signs up over the world.